In this video, I'm going to share with you some very scary information from a YouTube influencer who was approached by an intelligence agency right before the last election, and he was told not to speak about certain things on his channel. As many of you know, I'm part of the InfraGard program, and part of that is when we do interviews, forensic analysis, and lots of other things. And part of this was someone who is a YouTube influencer that I sat down with that shared things that you may not even believe are true. The reason I'm sharing this with you is I just recently saw a video with Chase Hughes and Jack Neel that addressed this exact issue. And when Chase laid down the actual steps that would be used in something like this, it was almost identical to what this particular influencer shared with us. Check this out.
I think people would be surprised that the CIA is sophisticated enough to infiltrate the influencers that Gen Z and Gen Alpha watch. If you were theoretically going to design a psychological operation, what would be the main areas you think you would have covered on social media?
You mean like if I wanted to recruit someone like you?
So here's the exact tactics that were used, and they're eerily similar to what was shared by Chase Hughes on Jack Neel's channel. First of all, I would let you know that they don't just come and speak to people randomly, but they actually check what the statistics are, how many people are watching, what your influence is in the political sphere, and at times they will approach individual creators and influencers. And some of the run-of-the-mill things that they share with these creators are things like, don't have this person on your show, or if you speak about this subject, don't talk about this, or if this happens to be recorded, make sure it gets deleted, things like that. The way that it worked with this particular one was that he was approached through the contact, through his website, and also through YouTube, and a business meeting was set up. And at the business meeting, when he was approached, they expressed things like, hey, we love your channel. We can't believe the influence that you have, but we have a couple questions for you and a proposition that might be very interesting to you. Would you be willing to speak about it? And of course, this guy said yes. Then they asked him a couple of very simple questions. One was, would you consider yourself to be someone who is a critical thinker, where you don't just believe everything that you're told, but you look and you weigh the things that are given to you as far as information goes? This person said yes. The other thing that they asked him was, do you consider yourself to be a person that cares about the future of your country? And of course he said yes. Right there, what people don't realize is that they've actually got him into what's called an identity contract, where he's already said he's a person that is critical in his thinking. He doesn't just believe things that he reads or hears, and also he cares about the future of his country. And then the scary part happened. They proposed to him that they had an offer to show him, a possible business proposition that he may be interested in, and would he be willing to at least look at it before making any type of a judgment? And after he agreed to that, they said, this may be very uncomfortable to you, and it may even be a bit shocking. Are you still willing to at least entertain looking at what we have to offer? After he agreed to that, they leaned in on the table and they brought out a couple of laptops and other devices, and they showed him a history of all of his browsing activity. They showed him videotape of himself from his own phone as well as from his own computer system. And there were even some recordings of intimate experiences that he was having with certain people that he may not have wanted other people to know about. So he was presented with some of the most compromising information that he could ever experience that was starring himself. And then they proceeded to tell him that they were proud of what he had accomplished with his podcast, and that they wanted to make sure that he was protected and that none of this information would somehow get out to his family, to the public, to the press, to people he was in business agreements with, and so on. But then they offered him several $1,000s a month to play along and to do what it is that they're asking him to do. And they reminded him that he agreed to entertain this information, even though they told him it would be stressful and possibly cause a little bit of anxiety. So he had already painted himself into a corner, and at this point, he's believing it's probably his own doing that they're in this conversation, which is all part of the psychological profile of the plan. So now, even though he goes back on the podcast and he doesn't interview certain people and he doesn't talk about certain issues, he's resolving it in his own mind by saying he's doing the right thing, he's caring about his country, and he's making sure that he's doing what he thinks now is the right thing to relieve the cognitive dissonance. Now, you may ask yourself, what about if he would have said no? Jack Neel actually asked that exact same question to Chase Hughes during that interview. And what he had to say is actually true. Here's what would have happened.
What happens if I say no?
At the end of the day, if you said no, the conversation would turn to, well, I think you're doing a great job. I appreciate you having this discussion with me. And I have to say that there is no way that I can prevent this stuff from reaching the public eye unless you decide to work with us. But it's up to you. And that'll be a mind virus in your brain for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it'll never go away. And all I've got to do is leave you a business card with a phone number on it. And you'll call. Eventually you'll call.
Every single person at some point will make the phone call. Because at night, when no one else is around, you're weighing those options. Is this going to get out to my family? Is this going to ruin my marriage? Is it going to ruin my business? Or are they going to deplatform me and my channel will just disappear? So I ask you, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have made the phone call? Would you have told them you would be willing to play ball? Would you have taken the money? Would you have weighed it differently and maybe stuck to your principles and just waited to see what would have happened? What would you have done?